At Ma Mukti, we analyzed a societal context and found women make up 75% of all fields in our movements, including philanthropy. Women of color are the backbone of our movements, but receive a mere 0.5% of the $66.9 billion foundations receive annually. Mantles of leadership are disproportionate to the folks both staffing organizations and engaged members. According to a candid study, organizations with women of color at the helm have an average budget of $50,000. Race to Lead series reports over 50% of women of color experience ongoing racial discrimination and are often overlooked for promotions. Since the pandemic, the NCRC has reported that the U.S. is in its first female recession, disproportionately impacting women of color, claiming 2.3 million women have left the workforce. Women of color are vital contributors to both their families and their communities, but enduring inequalities powered by racism, sexism, and other forms of discrimination and biases. BIPOC women have both the intersectionality of gender and race to navigate, making the ability to earn fair wages, save for emergencies and retirement, all the more challenging. Women need a space to be together, to heal, and to relationship build. M2 is centering our leadership. Our mission is to cultivate new and profound ways of being with one another, fostering a culture that values, respects, and empowers all women, particularly women of color, by creating spaces that promote individual and collective healing, transformation, and joy. Our vision is for a future where all women's leadership, particularly women of color and humanity, are centered, recognized, cherished, and valued. We strive to create a society where our voices are heard, our talents are recognized, and our full potential is realized. In this future, meaningful connections and interactions will flourish, celebrating and uplifting each other's successes. Our guiding principles: love. We believe that critical to all things, self-love allows us to see ourselves with the confidence and gentleness required to create a world that is just. A just world requires us to love each other fiercely. Trust. When the world tells us lies about ourselves, we must learn to know ourselves and trust in each other, to see and look beyond the tropes and stereotypes that keep us in a falsely unchanging world. Connection. We understand that connection is essential to human existence. Connection to self facilitates self-awareness, the foundation for transformation. Connection to others is a foundation of community, required for the creation of a just world. Commitment. As a key grounding, commitment to ourselves that a just world is possible. Commitment to each other is a catalyst to actualize a just world. Alignment. We believe contentment and joy are possible when we are living embodiments of our values. We achieve this through acute alignment of what we do and say with what we truly care about in the world. Innovation. Our lived experiences impart many lessons, and we intentionally create spaces for us to find and celebrate new ways of creating a just world. Innovation allows us to be flexible and creative in addressing our own needs and the needs of our communities. Transformation. Changing ourselves is changing the world. Ella Program. The work of M2 and Ella Summit and Program is empowered by extensive research we conducted over 12 months. Primarily, we administered 2 national surveys of over 500 women and engaged a group of women of color to explore the somatic shaping, historical worldview, of women of color over the last 30 years in the United States. The program goals are navigating racism and patriarchy, specifically within our organizations and movements, requires an effective leader to be centered and grounded. Developing embodied leadership safeguards women from enduring trauma, tools and skills to invoke intrinsic resiliency, centers humanity and therefore self-care, posits at the core the values that make us who we are. cultivating intimate and community, local and regional, support systems for safety nets for our leadership, as well as affinity groups that can guide and support our growth. Technical skills for leadership roles within our organizations and movements. The L Summit goals connect and synergize the diverse strands and manifestations of women-centered leadership, healing, and racial justice work. Convene an inclusive makeup of 100 U.S.-based organizers and social change agents who are representative of women and the many intersections of our identities. Center healing and transformation as foci points of workshops and trainings that serve individuals' relationships to self and others. Establish regional networks to support women during and post the summit that can simultaneously create local pockets of support and learning comrades. Year-long leadership cohort to build, learn, skill up, and heal together. Retreats and trainings include leaders of embodied organizing, WEL, practicing justice, activist retreat, and many more offerings coupled with local, regional, and national topic-based convening. Women's Leadership Advancement Campaign, RISE. Respect, inclusion, support, and equity. Identified problem. Lack of leadership, equity, and representation of women, women of color, helming the mantles of leadership in our movements when we make up the majority of the front lines and are adversely affected and impacted by the issues we organize. Leadership and critical mass needed. Women and women of color working on the front lines of our movements and in two-tier leadership, manager, organizer, who are committed to social justice via organizing strategy for social change. Integrate what kind of leadership is developed in living the embodied leadership tenets. 300 to 500 women, majority women of color. Identified solution. Develop embodied leadership amongst a critical mass that positions women, specifically women of color, to take mantles of leadership in their organizations and in our movements. Developed issue. Our organization and movements are equitable and representative of those more egregiously affected and impacted by the issues we organize, the people who are on the front lines, and those who hold mantles of leadership and decision-making power. Campaign goal number 1. Recruit and engage 300 women across movements in the United States to acutely align their values to be embodied leaders over a 2-year period. Campaign goal number 2. 50 to 75 organizations conduct an audit of representative leadership and commit to equitable leadership within their organizations. Campaign goal number 3. 50% of engaged members take on higher mantles of leadership within their organizations in the first 3 years of the campaign. Campaign goal number 4. Local, regional, and national pods engage 75% of memberships to offer support, spaces for strategizing, relationship building, and individual collective healing.